Hello and welcome to our nightly news. These are the headlines. The National Committee for Crescent Sighting and Islamic Timings declared that Monday will be the first day of the blessed Eid al-Fitr. The 14th edition of the Taj al-Quran competition has ended. The winners were awarded and special needs laureates were honored as well. Within the fight against organized crimes and during an operation, detachments of the National Gendarmerie neutralized 2 criminals, drug traffickers in Babila, Saint-Limsan. And in France, the government is held hostage by the far right, as many ministers are multiplying their racist decisions and Islamophobic statements. Such there has risen a toxic atmosphere for Muslims in France. In Morocco, Zionist normalization controls key political decision-making amid widespread public discontent. Welcome back, everyone, to tonight's news. The National Committee for Crescent Sighting and Islamic Timings declared during its meeting in Dar al-Imam in al-Muhammadiyah that Monday will be the first day of the blessed Eid al-Fitr, and that after the non-sighting of the crescent moon of the month of Shawwal. The 14th edition of Taj al-Quran competition concluded last night at the Abdul Latif Rahal Conference Center, honoring Quran reciters. The event saw high-level attendance and the presence of the Speaker of the People's National Assembly, Ibrahim Boughali, advisor to the President of the Republic in charge of the General Directorate of Communication, Kamal Sidi Said, several members of the government, Director of Algiers Mosque, Sheikh Mohammed Ma'moun Qasim al-Hassani, the Director General of the Algerian Television, and the CEO of Mobilis, who announced an additional prize, namely an Umrah, for the finalists for Taj al-Quran competition and its jury. Ajhtayar.
The Algerian television has showcased exceptional young men and women whose hearts shine with the light of the Quran. Through dedication and mastery, they have earned the honor of carrying it, standing as a source of national pride. This journey of faith reflects unwavering devotion and the pursuit of spiritual and intellectual elevation.
والله إنه لشعور سعيد بهيج لا يوصف بكلمة.
It is a happy and joyful feeling that cannot be described in words. All that can be said is to thank God, parents and family. Praise to be Allah, through whom all good deeds are done, that I was crowned with the title of Taj al-Quran in this 14th edition.
The participation of young people of determination in this year's competition was a powerful testament to the strength of the human spirit, proving that unwavering resolve can overcome any challenge. I thank Allah Almighty, and then I thank my parents for making sure that I memorize the Holy Quran. The competitive level in this edition was very high, considering the entry of students participating in previous editions. Following a deeply spiritual atmosphere illuminated by the Quran, praise is due to Allah for the honor of uniting around His divine word and recognizing the outstanding achievements of reciters and competitors.
We found this wonderful space, the Taj al-Quran space, which is organized by Algerian TV every year, and we have almost reached a decade and a half of strong years that have brought us amazing professors.
القوية التي أبرزت لنا أساتذة. تاج القرآن الكريم وقبله حادي الأرواح صار.
Taj al-Quran and its predecessor Hadi al-Arwah have become 2 fixed programs, not only in the Algerian television network but also in the Algerian state's vision of what modern Islam, Maliki Islam, Islam that calls us to tolerance, dialogue, security and safety should be.
الإسلام الذي يدعونا إلى التسامح، يدعونا إلى الحوار، يدعونا إلى الأمن والأمان.
نتشرف بأن نعلن وكذلك تيمنا بثورة نوفمبر عن تقديم
The Taj al-Quran competition reaffirmed that the true determination and deep connection to the Quran paved the way to excellence, and the participants demonstrated that mastering its memorization and recitation is not only a noble pursuit, but also the highest honor and the greatest distinction.
Another news now, and as part of efforts to combat organized crime and based on precise information, a national gendarmerie unit carried out an operation on March 27, 2025 in the village of Salam, Bab al-Assa municipality in Tlemcen province within the jurisdiction of the 2nd military region. The unit surrounded a house sheltering a wanted drug baron identified as Malu Imam, who had multiple arrest warrants against him. Inside the house, Malu Imam and his brother opened fire on the security forces, injuring an officer who was immediately transferred to Maghniya Hospital for first aid before being moved to Oman Military University Hospital. Following the shootout, the drug baron attempted to escape in a vehicle with 2 accomplices. Security forces responded by opening fire on the vehicle, eliminating the 2 criminals identified as Ghattas Mohammed and Namrawi Mohammed, who were helping his escape. However, the drug baron managed to flee. After storming the house, security forces arrested Malu Ilyas, the baron's brother, who sustained minor injuries. They also seized a Star automatic pistol, a utility vehicle, 14 mobile phones and a banknote counting machine and other items. This high-profile operation reaffirms the vigilance and determination of the armed forces and the borders in tracking down criminals nationwide and combating all forms of organized crime, in particular during the holy month of Ramadan. 60 years after France's nuclear tests in Algeria, their effects are still deeply felt. Radiation levels remain high, cancer rates are alarming, and disabilities persist. Victims continue to demand recognition and reparations for the lasting crime against humanity. Misalila Balaman.
60 years after the French colonial army's nuclear tests in Algeria, their devastating impact remains visible, both in the environment and in public health. From El Gan to Ain Kir, radioactive contamination from that era continues to plague the region. In some areas, radiation levels are still dangerously high.
J'ai passé 10 ans de ma vie à Tamanrasset.
I spent 10 years in Tamanrasset. During that time, I noticed an alarming number of cancer cases, particularly thyroid, breast, and skin cancer. These were much less common in the north. That's one side of the issue. The other is the prevalence of birth defects, including severe orthopedic malformations.
Avec un pourcentage moins au nord. Ça, c'est le volet de cancérologie. Il y a un autre volet, c'est les malformations. Sans parler des malformations orthopédiques.
Les récupérateurs viennent toujours.
Even today, more than 60 years later, scavengers come to recover cables, burning plastic and other materials to extract copper. The practice continues on site to this day.
Activité de récupération qui est toujours aujourd'hui présente sur le site.
During a visit to Ain Kir, a scientist collected a sample for analysis. The results were indisputable.
Vous voyez sur ce pic?
As you can see from this peak, there is massive cesium-137 contamination, along with plutonium. This is highly toxic, long-lived radioactive waste that has no place in an environment accessible to the public. The French state must take full responsibility and be held accountable for the atrocities committed in Algeria. These nuclear tests amount to a crime against humanity. I was born the same year as the Hamoudia atomic explosion with a disability. Until I was 7 or 8, I could only move on all fours. I had to undergo rehabilitation just to learn how to walk. I am 18 years old. As you can see, I have a disability caused by radioactive fallout. My leg hurts day and night. I have seen multiple specialists in different hospitals. There is no cure for my condition. Faced with these lasting consequences, many Algerians continue to demand official recognition of the damage inflicted, still waiting for reparations that reflect the depth of their suffering.
The rising influence of the far right in France is normalizing Islamophobia. The Interior and Justice ministers keep imposing racist decisions, threatening by that the country's political stability.
The political landscape in France is undergoing a dangerous shift. with the far right steadily gaining influence and normalizing its ideology. Once considered extreme, certain radical ideas are now being trivialized and used to serve the far right interests. The government is even amplifying Marine Le Pen's rhetoric, escalating attacks on immigration and fueling Islamophobia. A recent Mediapart survey highlights this troubling trend, revealing that the ministers of Interior and Justice are locked in a competition, seizing government decisions and steering the French politics toward increasingly racist positions. And according to the newspaper, this shift is driven by personnel and even presidential ambitions at the highest levels of the government. The far-right ideology is taking root. Some politicians are even threatening to resign to exert pressure, underscoring the extent of this transformation. What was once seen as extreme is now becoming mainstream, with echoes of France's colonial past resurfacing in both rhetoric and policy. This trajectory, if left unchecked, could ultimately weaken France itself before it even reaches those it claims to oppose.
For the
first time in our history, we're going to debate Islamophobia in our hemicycle of political will, or rather that of the will to mask this reality, which affects more than 5 million of our citizens, the paper French, as some call them. According to the BFM TV, it's still the Muslims' fault. Just like a few years ago, we were told that there was no more sunflower oil because of Muslims, and because of Ramadan, they blamed Ramadan. So the truth about this controversy is that some people are trying to make Muslims hate us and to make the Muslims hate it, and are trying to create Islamophobia in our country and to divide the French people. The growing influence of the far right is reshaping France's media landscape, turning platforms linked to Vincent Bolloré into powerful propaganda tools, a key supporter of extremist discourse. Bolloré has enabled these outlets to amplify racist rhetoric, fueling a dangerous escalation. Mediapart also reveals that these media serve as battlegrounds for the Minister of Interior, whose rise was been marked by compromises with the far right, and the Minister of Justice, whose career began under a radical politician. Their rivalry only intensifies this shift, with the far right tightening its grip on public debate and institutions. The fundamental principles of the Fifth Republic are increasingly being challenged. Darmanin wrote a book 2 years ago on Napoleon, in which he praised Napoleon's anti-Semitic policy towards Jews, and he says that it should be used today towards Muslims. So we don't need any lessons from Darmanin and Retailleau, because they're developing a racist policy and Islamophobia and dividing the French people. Observers warn that France is on a dangerous path as the surge of extremism threatens to push the country into a political turmoil. Many argue that without urgent action, the Fifth Republic risks either collapsing or descending into a deep and irreversible crisis.
Latest updates now on the powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake that struck Myanmar. No less than 1,600 people were killed, while more than 3,400 are injured. The quake caused major destruction, collapse in buildings and damage in infrastructure, especially in Mandalay and surrounding areas. Tremors were felt in Thailand and other neighboring countries, and authorities are warning of aftershocks. During an inspection of goods processing operations at the Jijil Junjun port and an assessment of the stakeholders' adherence to the continuous work system aimed at accelerating cargo flow and reducing docking costs, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Transport announced directives to port authorities to ensure the successful reception of 1 million livestock for Eid al-Adha. The shipment is expected to arrive by the end of May for distribution across various provinces ahead of the Eid.
There's instructions given to port managers regarding unloading ships in a small amount of time, so we'll be able by the end of May to provide 1 million sheep, as mentioned by the President of the Republic.
The Algerian community abroad once again embraced the spiritual essence of Ramadan. The Algerian Consulate General in Barcelona oversaw an honorary ceremony for Quran memorizers organized by the Algerian Catalan Association. The gathering was filled with joy, recognition, and a deep sense of connection to homeland and faith. Morocco public outrage and rejection of the Zionist Makhzen normalization agreements continue, with angry protest met by the Makhzen's regime's deafening silence, disregard for its people concerns, and repression by all means.
The shameful agreements between the Makhzen and the Zionist entity appear on the surface to be strategic cooperation, marketed by the regime for domestic consumption and to mislead the people. However, beneath the surface, they represent a clear infiltration of the country's most sensitive sectors, those considered sovereign by nations, such as irrigation and agriculture.
هذه الاتفاقيات تسمح للشركات الصهيونية بالوصول إلى القطاع الزراعي المغربي.
These agreements allow Zionist companies to access Morocco's agricultural sector, where the doors have now been flung wide open for them to operate freely. However, we do not allow them to work in secrecy, as we have exposed these companies.
الشركات التي خاصة في مجال الأفوكا إلى آخره.
The dubious deals between the Makhzen and its counterpart, the Zionist entity, have also extended to defense, energy, health, education, and real estate. Though shrouded in secrecy, human rights reports have sounded the alarm about their implications.
Cooperation agreements in telecommunication and information technology, the establishment of a joint investment fund to finance innovative technology projects, and the organization of official visits for the Zionist businesses' delegations to Morocco and vice versa have become so common that it is now almost standard for senior officials to obtain Zionist approval.
The demand to end this normalization is widely supported by the people, but faces the Makhzen's relentless crackdown, with free voices silenced and activists arrested.
Regarding the Palestinian cause, the Zionist occupation forces continues its aggression against the city of Tulkarem and its camp, as well as the Nur al-Shams camp, by deploying further military vehicles and bulldozers. As for the Gaza Strip, Zionist strikes are continuing in various areas. That was it for today's news. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.